Well, good morning and welcome once again to New Thought Talk. I am the Reverend Steve Walling from the Spiritual Awareness Center located in Madera, California, and I'm glad you're here with us today. It's going to be an interesting day. I hope it will be a fun day for you, and I hope it'll be a day that you learn a few things, you pull a few tools out of what I have to say, because today I'm going to talk about this thing called prosperity. You know, prosperity is one of those things that for some people, it can be a very elusive thing. Back in the 60s, there was a fella, his name was Donovan, and he had a song that was popular, and it was called Catch the Wind. And the basic idea in the song was he had a love feeling for a young lady, but the chances of that coming together was non-existent, and so he compared it with trying to catch the wind. And today I want to address this idea of prosperity because some people see their chance of becoming prosperous more difficult than trying to catch the wind. And you know, I'm here to tell you that that's just not true. Prosperity is something that is available to each and every one of us when we open our minds and open our hearts up to it. And that's the message I want to get across today. That's what I want you to take away when the show's over. And as we discuss things today, there are some tools, some things that you can use. You'll be able to put them to use in your day-to-day life, and I hope you will, to create a prosperous life for yourself. First, I'd like to define this concept of prosperity, and being prosperous is an experience of having peace and harmony and abundance in your life. You know, most people, when we talk about prosperity, they immediately think of being something associated with money, being associated with wealth, and you know, definitely having an abundance of a financial wherewithal is a part of prosperity, but being prosperous is having plenty of good in all aspects of our life. You aren't prosperous if you got a lot of money and you're tied up in bed. You're not able to do the things you want to do. You're not prosperous if you've got a lot of money and you have no relationship, no love in your life. You're not prosperous if you just can't experience life in all of its different vastness because you are maybe heavily focused in one area, or maybe you don't see yourself as someone that's worthy to experience this. And I want to share with you a little story. I had someone come see me here a while back, and she came in and she said, you know, Rev Steve, she said, I really like this philosophy that you teach on so many levels, but you know, this idea of prosperity, being able to experience good, she says, I just don't know if I buy into it. And she was telling me that she found that she has a business and it's just not prospering, and she feels unhappy because she has to depend on her husband to provide for her wherewithal. And we had a long talk, and I was asking her, I said, well, if you don't see this idea of prosperity being something that you can achieve on a spiritual level, you know, maybe it's time that you need to reevaluate this. So we had to talk about it. So I want to talk to you about prosperity. And the thing with prosperity is, first off, we need to understand that prosperity is something that comes out of our mentality and something that comes out of our spirituality. You got to have both of those aspects. You got to have a mental consciousness of prosperity, and you've got to have a spiritual understanding of what prosperity really is all about. You see, we talk in New Thought about this thing that we call truth, and we say that we are a truth teaching, and probably the simplest definition of that is an understanding that which we call the first creative force of the universe, or spirit, or God, or the goddess, or whatever name that you may have that is particular to you, that thing which we call spirit or God is infinite, and it's everywhere. And if you understand that in that infiniteness, in that everywhereness of it, we call it being omnipresent, All of God is available at every and any point. Which means that when we were first created in consciousness, in thought, before we ever came into this physical expression that we call life, all of our good was already created for us. It was already here. You know, I live up in the mountains above Fresno, and to come down here to do the show, or when I come down to the center, I drive down through the forests and I drive down through the fields, and I see this immense wealth of just incredible trees and grasses, and I think, you know, none of that had to struggle to be what it is. You know, we see flowers during the springtime. We see this beautiful array of spring flowers up in the mountains. And none of it had to ask somebody or something for its daily good. It was just provided for it. And you see, that's the way the spiritual nature of the universe is. It's infinite. It's infinite in its abundance, and it's infinite in the energy that is here, and it's infinite in what it provides for you. But there's a situation with this providing, and that is there's got to be some receiving. And in order to receive, we have to open ourselves up to that idea of receptiveness. And this is where having a mental consciousness and a spiritual understanding of the divine comes into play. If we go through our day just in a haphazard, happenstance way, and we find that we're subject to, you know, the news. You know, there's an economic situation going on. You know, I just heard that the job market's pretty tough, and the various things, the housing market is down, and all these different things that we hear. If we take them in and we make them a part of our consciousness, a part of our mentality, then they become part of our world that we experience. But if you can get a new thought in your mind, a different thought, I was telling you about the fields and the trees and the flowers and the abundance. If you begin to see the universe as a source of abundance, of a source of good, you know, we talk about God being a loving God, a God that is our Father provides for us. We're told that it is God's good pleasure to give us the kingdom. We're told that to the level and the extent that we can believe, to that extent we will receive. But we've got to open ourselves up to it. We've got to believe it and we've got to act on it. And so today we're going to talk about those things. And one of the first things I want to do is I'm going to give you 4 things. If you got a pen or, you know, paper or something, take these down. There's 4 things that you can put together in your prosperity journey. And that is, the first thing is desire. You want to have a desire. You want to know what that desire is, and we'll come back to each one of these things, so I'll come back to it. And the next thing is you got to believe. You got to believe that what it is that you have a desire for is in effect a reality that you can experience. And then another thing is you got to be able to see it, and you see it in mind, and you see it, I'm going to say, you see it in your heart also, because that's the 4th thing, is the feeling aspect of it. So when you have the desire, when you have the belief, when you have the vision, and when you have the feeling, then it all combines together into really a 5th thing, and that is a knowingness of it already being manifested in your life. So let's talk about this desire thing for a moment. You know, I get a lot of young people that come in, and I talk to them and I ask them, I say, well, you know, what is it you want to do with your life? You're getting to the end of high school, or you're going into college. What is it that you want to do with your life? And oftentimes the response is, well, gee, Rev, I really don't know. You know, I'm going to school because I'm going to get an education. My folks want me to get an education. Or, you know, I have an interest in this particular field, but, you know, once I get out of school, I don't know what it is that I want to do. You know, it's like a ship without a rudder. You know, you're out there and you've got no direction, and you're going to end up being wherever it is that you end up being with no idea how you got there. Wouldn't it be nice to choose your destination point and to see yourself being there? So how do you do it if you don't know? Well, there's several ways that you can do it. You can start by creating a consciousness of opening yourself up to what we would call divine guidance. You put the question out there, you know, to your source, to your spiritual, creative supplier of all good, that you are seeking for it to provide you with what the divine plan is for your life. And you got to do it in a way that allows you to quiet the mind, to open yourself up, and to be receptive. And you got to do it with commitment. You can't do it, well, today I'm going to put it out there, and gee, I want to know what it is that I want to be, and then tomorrow I'm busy going to the lake, and the day after I'm busy doing this, that, or the other, getting caught up and wrapped up in life. What you got to do is you got to find time. You make a commitment each and every day to, and you can do it as a meditative understanding where you go and you quiet your mind and you open yourself up and you put that statement out there that you want to know, that you want to be guided into that divine plan that is for you. And you know, when you do that, you're going to be experiencing things that will come to you, and oftentimes we call this intuition, and sometimes it's just something that's going to show up in your life. But when you put it out there in consciousness and you focus on it, you're beginning to put these forces in the universe into play in your life, and it will surprise you how the universe responds when you begin to look. And you're going to find that there are things that you're going to be maybe pushed towards a little bit, or doors that are going to open up to you, and all of a sudden you're going to have an understanding what it is that your life's divine plan is all about. And so when you get to that point, or if you're already at that point, the first thing you want to do is you want to write down what it is that your desire is. You write it down and you be specific. It's not, gee, I want to be a teacher, for example. I want to be an English teacher in grade school, grade 6, and I want to do it by this year. And oftentimes, you know, people do this. We have an understanding that it's like writing down goals, and it's very similar. It all works in the same basic principles, but you write it down, and you put it somewhere where you can, every day, you can take a moment, and you can review it, and you can see it. Now, it's not set in concrete. It's not absolute. It is something that is open up to being changed, refocused, redirected, because as you travel down your path, you may find that what you thought you wanted to do was actually just a stepping stone to what you ultimately end up doing that you would desire to do more. But you got to be open for it. So we understand we got to have this consciousness of desire. We got to get it down. We write it out where we can see it, and we review it each and every day. And that's the first thing that you want to do. And it looks like I'm getting ready to come up on a commercial break here. So what I want to do is, in the next segment, we're going to talk about belief and what that power of belief has in our destination, our journey towards our prosperity. So I'll see you when the commercial is ended.
Hi, I'm Greg Rude, a local real estate agent working with London Properties. You might be thinking about buying or selling a property right now, or maybe you just have a question about real estate. I'd love to help you with that. Give me a call at 352-7716, and I can answer any questions that you might have. Maybe you've got a property that's upside down. Maybe you're interested in buying a bank foreclosure and have a question about that. Or maybe you just like someone to show you some houses that you're interested in, or have a question about a particular property. Once again, give me a call. My name's Greg, 352-7716, and I'd love to help you. Thanks.
This just in. Tower District houses are selling for as little as $300 per month. If you have a job and decent credit, you can own your own home. If you can come up with a down payment, you can own a home a lot cheaper than you can rent, and your payment will never go up. Also, you could deduct most of your house payment from your income taxes. If you'd like to lock in your monthly house payment at $300 to $500 per month for the next 30 years, call Mike Briggs Properties, 486-6758. Mike Briggs Properties, 486-6758.
Hi, I'm Jason Gobelli, and I'd like you to take just a minute and ask yourself a couple of questions. Are your needs being met in the real estate business? Are you getting all the latest technology that you need to be productive in this market? Are you getting the benefits that you deserve? Do you have enough leads? Are you truly making enough money for all that hard work and time you've been putting in? If not, you might want to give me a call and we can set up a confidential interview. At Connect Realty, we're one of the fastest growing companies around. There's tons of tools and benefits for agents, like freerealtor.com showcase listings, free unlimited virtual tours, free websites with nationwide IDX. We have free virtual back office, free compliance coordinators so that you can be paid right away. There's health insurance, life insurance, and the best part is the commissions start from 80% and go to 95%. And we have one of the best retirement plans in the whole industry. Now, I cannot possibly go over everything in just this short minute. Go to the website, careers@connectrealty.com, or feel free to call us at the toll-free number, or you can even call my personal line, 559-307-0550. I look forward to talking to you. Thanks.
This segment is brought to you by Corrine Hatfield of Platinum Mortgage. If you are thinking of purchasing a new home or refinancing an existing home, call Corrine Hatfield at 917-7111.
CentralValleyTalk.com.
Well, welcome back to our second segment. Today we are talking about prosperity. I am the Reverend Steve Walling from the Spiritual Awareness Center located in beautiful downtown Madera, and I welcome you back to our show today. So, we're talking about prosperity, and I talked about desire, and in that consciousness of desire, there is the idea that we have to decide what it is that we desire, and we're going to get that down on paper. And the next thing we're going to move to is this idea of belief. Now, belief is a big, it's really filled with so much, because we are walking examples of our beliefs. We are a collection of everything that we've done and everything that we believe. It makes the choices that we make during the day. It decides what we're going to see, what we're going to concentrate on. And belief can work for us, and it can also work against us. So first I want to talk about how belief can work against us. And that is, oftentimes we have an understanding, and it's something that comes, I think it comes through society, but we have an understanding that somehow being poor is a virtue. Being downtrodden makes us honorable. And, I've never seen a poor flower that looked good, and I've never seen a tree that has turned brown and has died. I've never seen anything that looks honorable in that. It's usually just a loss. And it's even that much more of a loss when it's an individual, when it's human consciousness, and we get caught up. We get caught up in the belief that poverty is here, and it is a reality, and it is something that we can't overcome. And that's just not true. We can overcome poverty, each and every one of us, when we open ourselves up to what the true source of our good really is. The source of our good is not our job, it's not our boss, it's not our mom and dad or the government or anything else. The source of our good is that creative force in the universe. But if we don't believe that, if we believe that there's something else out there that is the cause of our good, then it's also something else that can take our good away from us. That can be pretty inhibiting, and it can hold us back. So today I want you to take a step in the direction of, if God is everywhere, and God is all abundance, God is the creative force, that means that I am some part, you are some part of that divine creation. And it is the Father's good pleasure to give you the kingdom when you open yourself up to it. But you got to believe it. And so we've had our desire, and we've made a decision of what we want. We wrote it down. Now we're going to believe that it is possible. And what that means is we accept. We have an understanding, an acceptance that the good that is there is as much mine as it is anything else, because I am some part of that divine. What an empowering thought. I can expect, because I believe, that the creative force of the universe will provide for me. Now, that doesn't mean that I sit on my haunches and wait for something to come to me and just present itself. That's not what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is, when we open ourselves up to believing that the good is already there, believing that the good is already there, even though I can't see it, I begin to open pathways, doorways, and I make myself available to receiving. And this is part of what we call the law of increase. I spoke last time we met. I talked to you about the idea of giving and priming the pump, and I'll talk a little bit more about that today. But giving is only part of it. Receiving is the other part. And that together combined makes this thing that we call the law of increase. So you've got to believe. So we write down what it is that we want. We believe that we are worthy of it. We believe that the resources are available. We believe that this idea of scarcity doesn't exist. We believe that we are some part of the divine, and that it's all just this one. And all of a sudden, we can believe that we are worthy of receiving. And you are worthy of receiving. As a matter of fact, by the mere fact that you can breathe means that you are worthy of receiving. But you got to open yourself up to it. That's what we were told many years ago when this fellow Jesus walked the face of the earth, and he said, to the extent that you can believe, to that extent you will receive. And he did tell us that it was the Father's good pleasure to give us the kingdom. But we got to believe it. We got to open ourselves up to it. And so we get this idea that we can receive. Now we're looking at prosperity in our lives. We gotta make room for it. We in order to receive, it's like if you have a garage and your garage is stuffed full of stuff, you can't receive anything more into that garage. So what you got to do is you got to open that garage up and start clearing out the old stuff. And what's the old stuff that we want to clear out? Well, we want to clear out things that are beliefs that are that work in opposition to our good. Beliefs that say we are less than. Beliefs that we habitually have used to hold us back. Beliefs that we have failed in the past and therefore we can't succeed now. And none of those things are true. Every year those flowers come back up in the mountains. Every cycle, the ocean, high tide comes back to the shore. Nature, God works in cycles, but it always works in creating abundance. And when we understand that, then we begin to see that, in order for the ocean to come back up the shore at high tide, it's got to go back out first. In order for new flowers to come into the fields, the old ones have to die away, and the field has to lay for the new generation to come back. In order for us to see and receive more into our life, we've got to clear out all the clutter, if you will. And that includes things that have held us back. If we, besides beliefs in poverty and lack and limitation, if we have issues with individuals that we need to do some forgiveness work on, now's the time to do it. Clean that out. Because remember, this is not just a positive consciousness thing. This is a spiritual journey that you're on. And in order to progress, in order to transcend in a spiritual way, we've got to make sure that we are in alignment with this creative force. And so if we see that we have issues with people that need to be forgiven, then we speak those words of forgiveness, and we let them go, and we move on our way, and we know in our hearts that at some point that they have forgiven us too. And even if they haven't ever contacted us, even if we never see them again, because this is the true vibrational alignment with God, we know that it is just so. So we don't worry about it. We do our forgiveness work. We clean out that part of the closet. We open ourselves up. We allow for a greater good to come into our lives. So that's the belief aspect of it. So we have decided with desire, we have belief. We believe that we are worthy. Now this next thing that we've got on the list is seeing it. And several years ago, Wayne Dyer wrote a book, When You Believe It, You Will See It. And truer words have never been spoken. Oftentimes I see people, they come in, they say, well, Rev Steve, I can't see how this is going to happen. All I can see is what the news is telling me, and all I can see is the stack of bills that I got at home, and I say, when you can believe and you can see the good that's there, it will arrive. You believe it, and you begin to see it. So how do you see it? You take time. Again, this is one of those things that you want to do. I want to encourage you to do this on a daily basis. Take the time, and it doesn't take a lot of time. We're talking 4 minutes, maybe 10 minutes. Quiet the mind, close your eyes, just calm things down, and then in the theater of the mind, on that great screen that's there, envision the end result that you want to see, whether it's a job, whether it's a new home, whether it's being a person that is in a loving relationship, being a person that's able to express themselves to the fullest extent, and being a person that lives life at a vigorous and exciting level. See that in the theater of your mind. Focus on it. Like I say, you only spend just 3, 4, 10 minutes a day. But what you're doing is something that is so powerful, because there is a part of our mind that doesn't understand the difference between what we see in our imagination and what we see in reality. Now, if we feed our mind all the stuff that we get in the news, all our fears that have come about as a result of bad news, bad economic news, whatever it is, then that's what our mind holds to and believes. But when we begin to feed it a different scenario, when we begin to feed it images of abundance, images of prosperity, images of health, images of love, images of wealth, then it begins to have an understanding that this is the reality that life is all about. And in truth, life mirrors back to us what it is that on a deeper level that we believe about ourselves. And this is how we program it. So we take the time, we do this visioning, we do this imaging in our minds, and we do it each and every day, just a short period of time. But as we do it, more and more and more, what we want to do is to get into that sensation of what it is that we're visioning in our minds. And so I'm looking at the clock. It's time to go to our next commercial break. When we come back, I'm going to talk about the fourth aspect of this, and that's the feeling aspect. So I'll see you when we come back.
Mike Briggs Properties has a very special historic property for sale that can be used as a home or as a business. This classic California craftsman historical home is located in the Tower District, Fresno High area. The interior ambiance displays a heyday of craftsman aesthetics, substance, strength, symmetry, and casual grace. Elegantly appointed mahogany and oak structural elements integrate form and function in a harmonious flow from room to room in this 2-story, 4,500-foot home. The property also includes a nearly 800-foot, 2-bedroom apartment above the garage. This property is well suited for a professional office type of business or for a large family or combined living and workspace. The lot included with this property is park-sized with plenty of room for expansion or as a parking lot big enough to support a commercial business. For more information on this property, call Mike Briggs Properties at 486-6758. Mike Briggs Properties, 486-6758.
Welcome to Johnny's Porch.
About that.
We have been doing this for a
year.
year. My memory of the porch is that it's very much where women rule. It was almost a throne.
You going like this?
I'm circular. See, Southern folks are circular. What you said, preach. You want me to preach? Love sharing those things and those things that'll make you stronger and better and go forward.
I ain't gonna let nobody turn me around. Turn me around. Hey, turn me around. Ain't gonna let nobody.
Okay, no more drama. To myself, I said self. Myself said yeah.
That was a good one.
That was good, girl. I'm good. I'm for you to become the best reflection of yourself. And what was that? The one God intended all along. We're going to get there together, I promise you. Thank God for the post. Amen.
You can advertise your business, your product, or your event on Central Valley Talk, the Valley's only internet television station. Several of our programs are also picked up on Dish and cable networks. For the best advertising dollar, call Central Valley Talk at 579-1360. This segment is brought to you by Blimpies in the Tower District. For all of your lunch and dinner needs, go to Blimpies in the Tower District.
CentralValleyTalk.com.
Well, welcome back to our third segment today. Today we are talking about prosperity consciousness. I am the Reverend Steve Walling from the Spiritual Awareness Center located in beautiful downtown Madera, and welcome back. So, in our first couple segments, we talked about the idea of deciding and desiring what you want, the idea of believing that is available to you and that you can have it, and then the idea of seeing and visualizing that which it is that you want in your life. So that brings us up to the next step, and that is getting into the feelingness of this. And as we've been going along today, you may see that all of these things, they all kind of tie in together, and it becomes one kind of a universal concept that we're doing. So when we get to the idea of feeling, this is something that is, it brings in the idea of believing. It brings in the visioning, the seeing, having the vision of what you want, and then creating the feeling within yourself as if it is already so. And this can be pretty exciting. It can be pretty fun as we go on our way in our journey towards prosperity, and we begin to seek out things that we want to experience in our lives, to be able to preview them, if you will, to pre-experience them is something that sets us up. It sets us up on a spiritual level. It sets us up on a mental level. It sets us up on a feeling level, and it's a great experience. But it's a skill, and we got to learn to do it. And the only way you can learn to do it is by doing it every day. You know, I heard someone say one time, he used mathematics as a comparison. And what he said was, you know, we've all seen mathematicians. We've all understood that there is a science of mathematics. We've seen them do, you know, great calculations. We see mathematics as they are tied to computers, and we've seen mathematics as they've been involved in the space program, and we can believe that there is this field and this science of mathematics, but just because we believe it doesn't make us a master mathematician. Now think about this for a minute. Just because you believe that prosperity is available to you doesn't make you a prosperous person. In order to be a mathematician, you've got to experience all that it takes to become a mathematician. It takes investment of time. It takes commitment. Same thing when you want to create a prosperous life. It takes time. It takes commitment. It takes desire. And as we do this, we have a co-partner. We got the biggest, most impressive, most creative, most abundant, most resourceful co-partner in the universe. And that's what we call God or Spirit, the creative force. You know, think about it. If God is all that there is, and we are some part of God, can you really think of any reason why that which created us would not make available to us everything we need in order to experience our life at its maximum level, given the tools, given the skills that we were created with? You know, there are people that will tell you this. There are people that will tell you that you shouldn't live at a high level of prosperity, that you should, in order to be what I will call a spiritual person, you should have to suffer through this life. And I think that's just a shame that people are still teaching this, but they do. And a lot of us carry that in our background, in our history, in our baggage, in our understanding. And, you know, I got to tell you, I've heard people talk about this, and I've had people come from other philosophies and say, Rev Steve, you know, I just don't believe that we were created to experience all this good. And so I asked him, I said, okay, given the philosophy that you come from, given your understanding, are there not people in that philosophy that are wealthy? Are there not possibly ministers or priests or whatever spiritual leaders there are in that philosophy that are wealthy? And they'll stop and think about it, and they say, well, yeah, there are. And you betcha there are. Can you conceive that this creative force of the universe would select out certain individuals to experience greater good and abundance, and have certain individuals that it wouldn't allow to experience that greater abundance? I don't think so. I think it's here for all of us. But we got to open ourselves up to it. And that's the difference between those that are experiencing it and those that are not experiencing it. And so as we open ourselves up, we want to get the feeling of what it feels like. If you remember from the last segment when I talked about how the mind works, that it really doesn't have an understanding between what is real and what we're giving it, what we're feeding it by way of imaging in our minds and experiencing in our feelings. It begins to take on an understanding that this is real. And as it understands this, it begins to align itself with the creative force of the universe, with that thing that we call spirit. And they come together like this. And it's powerful. And I've watched this happen in people's lives. I had a fellow that he called me up a while back. He goes to a different center down south, and he was telling me, he says, you know, Rev Steve, he says, I don't understand. He says, I'm losing clientele. My business is getting tough. He said, I'm really struggling. And he says, I understand these principles. I read them every day, and things aren't happening in my life. And so the first thing I asked him, I said, well, are you tithing to your center? Well, when I make enough money, I'm going to start tithing to it. And I said, well, I want you to think about what you just said. See, because what he just told me was he's not making enough money. And that is the message that he's giving his mind. One of the first things that we want to do once we begin to get into a consciousness of prosperity is to get our prosperity in order, if you will. And that is, we have three things that we want to do. We want to give to our spiritual source, wherever that is, whether it is a church that you go to, a mosque, a center, whether it's a particular teacher, whether it's an author of a book. It doesn't make any difference. Wherever you get your spiritual good, you want to make that your first priority. And the next priority you want to make right below that is yourself. You give to your source of your good. You give to yourself. And then there's another giving that needs to be done. And this giving is to somebody else, to an individual, whether it's through charity, whether it's through helping out, whether it's in relationship. You give to other individuals because as you do this, you open, it's almost like a flow of energy. You open yourself up to a greater flow. And as it comes in and it goes out, and you enhance this flow with your giving. And then, in order to see the law of increase work in your life, you open yourself up to the receiving, and you expect a receiving. And I've had people talk to me, they say, well, Rev Steve, to expect, to give and expect to receive. Now, there is a line that we got to watch here. You don't give to get. You'll end up drying up your source, so to speak, if you take that level of consciousness. But you need to have a level of expectation of receiving, and this, it feeds the flow, if you will. It opens the space for good to flow into. So as we go through our process of deciding and desiring, of believing, of seeing, and we get into the feeling, we experience that, oh, it feels so good to have this in my life. If nothing else, think of it as if you've jumped into a swimming pool of water. Think of your good as that water. You jump in and you feel it totally surround your body, and you totally get into that experience, and you hold that in your feeling consciousness. And then as you do that, you open yourself up to this concept of giving and receiving, and prosperity begins to, it's almost miraculous. It begins to be part of your life experience, and it will come to you in so many ways. And as I said in the very beginning of the show, we're not talking just about prosperity as it relates to wealth. We can be talking about health or relationships. We can be talking about so many different areas in our life. And this, again, when we hold in consciousness this idea that prosperity is a spiritual thing, it encompasses all areas of our lives. We all know people that have an abundance in one area or another, and they're experiencing lack or limitation in another. It's because they don't have that level of prosperity consciousness, and they don't have the spiritual connection with their source. And so I'll talk a little bit more about that on the backside. We're coming into our final and last commercial break for the show. I'll see you when we get back.
Mike Briggs Properties has a very special historic property for sale that can be used as a home or as a business. This classic California craftsman historical home is located in the Tower District, Fresno High area. The interior ambiance displays a heyday of craftsman aesthetics, substance, strength, symmetry, and casual grace. Elegantly appointed mahogany and oak structural elements integrate form and function in a harmonious flow from room to room in this two-story, 4,500-foot home. The property also includes a nearly 800-foot two-bedroom apartment above the garage. This property is well suited for a professional office type of business, or for a large family, or combined living and workspace. The lot included with this property is park-sized, with plenty of room for expansion, or as a parking lot big enough to support a commercial business. For more information on this property, call Mike Briggs Properties at 486-6758. Mike Briggs Properties, 486-6758.
Welcome to Jocelyn's Porch.
About that.
We have been doing this for
about
a
that.
year. My memory of the porch is that it's very much where women rule. It was almost a throne.
You going like that?
Oh, I'm circular. See, Southern folks are circular. What she said, preach. You want me to preach? Love sharing those things and those things that'll make you stronger and better and go for.
Ain't gonna let nobody turn me around. Turn me around. Hey, turn me around. Ain't gonna let nobody.
Okay, no more drama. To myself, I said self. Myself said yeah.
That was a good one.
That was good, girl. I'm good. I'm for you become the best reflection of yourself. And what was that? The one God intended all along. We're going to get there together, I promise you. Thank God for the post. Amen.
You can advertise your business, your product, or your event on Central Valley Talk, the Valley's only internet television station. Several of our programs are also picked up on Dish and cable networks. For the best advertising dollar, call Central Valley Talk at 579-1360. This segment is brought to you by Blimpies in the Tower District. For all of your lunch and dinner needs, go to Blimpies in the Tower District.
CentralValleyTalk.com.
Well, welcome back to New Thought Talk. I am the Reverend Steve Walling from the Madera Spiritual Awareness Center, and today we have been talking about prosperity. Now, I want you to understand, we're just kind of scratching the surface of it here today. There's so much more that you can learn and that you can put into use in your life as you begin your journey towards prosperity and abundance. But it's a journey that each and every one of us, we're entitled to it by right of our birth. And don't ever allow yourself to be held down or kept in a place of less than because of something that somebody else says or thinks. You know, I mentioned in the last segment, there are people that will tell you that it's wrong to be prosperous. But you know, there's teachings throughout all the different religions towards prosperity. You know, and it makes no difference which one that you may happen to have as your personal belief system. You know, in the last century, there was a fellow by the name of Russell Cornwall, and he was a Baptist minister. Russell Cornwall wrote a book called Acres of Diamonds, and it's based on a true story about a man who decided that he was going to enrich himself. So he was a farmer. He sold his farm. He went out and he spent all that he had in search of the big find, if you will, to make himself wealthy. And he died in poverty. But the fellow that bought the farm noticed that there was a lot of rocks out in the field, and that was one of the things that the original farmer had felt made the farm a rather poor investment. But the new buyer looked at those rocks a little closer and found out, in fact, they weren't rocks, they were diamonds. And the abundance was there all along. And that's the way it is in our lives. We spend so much time looking out in the rest of the world for abundance that we fail to see the diamonds that are within and available to each of us. And so Dr. Russell Cornwall, he gave this speech on Acres of Diamonds some 6,000 times. He earned something like $8 to $12 million in the process of giving this speech. And he started and was the first president of Temple University in Pennsylvania. He was a Baptist minister. You have many ministers today that will tell you that prosperity is your divine right. You have rabbis that will tell you that prosperity is your divine right. You have teachers from all walks of life. So open yourself up. Don't let people that tell you that you shouldn't experience good allow you to be swayed towards shorting yourself in your life experience. You were created in the image and the likeness of the divine. That means that you were created with all of the availability of that divine available to you. And that's a pretty powerful thing. Before I get to my closing stuff, I want to read a summary of prosperity. This is from Catherine Ponder, and I would recommend that if you're interested in starting your journey towards prosperity, she has many good books out there you can read. And so what she says here, the word receive means to accept. Psychologists tell us that we can have anything that we can mentally accept. Most of us have heard a lot about giving, but not enough about receiving. Many people have a hang-up about receiving. And giving is only one half of the law. She's talking about the law of increase. Receiving is the other half. Many people unbalance the law by overgiving, and many people unbalance the law by not expecting to receive. It is your Father's good pleasure to give you the kingdom, and it should be your good pleasure to receive it. What you notice and talk about, you are inviting into your life. What you identify with in your thoughts, words, and actions, you are inviting into your life. Open your mind to receive by identifying with the good. Open your mind to receive by telling God what you want instead of telling people. Telling people what you want can dissipate your good. People are channels. God is the source. When you want to receive, give. And there are 3 kinds of giving, and all are necessary. Give to God. Put Him first financially. This is the first quality to be developed on the road to enlightenment. Give to yourself. Self-improvement is necessary before you can help others to improve. And give something to someone else. And then get ready to receive. Prepare to receive. And next, daily speak your words of receiving. This gains the cooperation of your thoughts and feeling nature, which then begins to work for you. And finally, declare that you have received and then release it. And you release it and you let it go and you let God do what God does. These are some of the teachings that open us up to this concept of prosperity. I hope that it has been enlightening for you. We teach this at the Spiritual Awareness Center in Madera. If you'd like to join us on some Sunday, we have our celebration times at 9 o'clock and then again at 10:30. We also offer classes on various things, including New Thought and Prosperity Consciousness. We will be getting ready to be starting a prosperity class here about the first part of August. So you can contact us through our website, which is maderasac.com. I see it right now. It's on the banner at the bottom of the screen. You can check in there. You can connect with us through the email that is there. We have contact information. And should you choose to begin to include us in your giving consciousness as you are growing your prosperity, we have links there that take you to PayPal, where you can make a one-time donation or you can make a continuing donation. Also on the webpage, if you're watching this program live for Central Valley Talk, there is a link there that you can give to support this program, so that we will be able to share these kind of concepts and many other New Thought concepts with you as time goes on. Now, we have viewers, and this is, for me, this is kind of fun. We have been collecting viewers, if you will, from all over the world. And that's exciting to know that we're reaching out and touching so many different people. But oftentimes, being out in other parts of the world, being able to find a center that teaches this consciousness of prosperity, teaches this consciousness of God's abundance good, may be a little bit of a challenge. So, if you will go on the bottom right, let's see, get my head right there. There you go. It says findacenter.org. If you go to that link right there, no matter where you're at in the world, you will find the center that is nearest to you. And that center may be a center that goes by the name of Unity, or a Center for Spiritual Living, or Religious Science, or Divine Science, or many other different names that the New Thought community falls under. But what we teach basically is the same thing, and it's available to you. And should you be in a place where you don't have access to it, on the other side over here, it'd be over here, you can go to newthoughtlibrary.com. And in that library, there is a collection of many, many books that were written by the founding thinkers, the founding teachers of this New Thought movement. The whole books are there. You can go, you can read, you can take this philosophy and begin to put it into practice in your life. And ultimately, that is the most important thing. Before I leave today, you know, it's nice to talk about this stuff. It's nice to read about it. It's nice to share it in discussion. But the bottom line is, in order for it to work, you got to put it to work. Ernest Holmes used to say that, you know, he didn't care if his students read all the different religious books in the world and had all the greatest understanding. If they didn't put it into practice, it didn't mean anything. You don't have to be a super philosopher. You don't have to be a super student. You just have to be someone that is committed to putting these principles into practice on a daily basis and put them to work for you. It's a skill. You'll get better. You'll see results, and your life will improve. And on that note, I'm going to close today by saying, may the light of God surround you. May the love of God enfold you. May the power of God protect you, and the presence of God watch over you, for truly wherever you are, God is, and God is available to you, and so it is.
CentralValleyTalk.com